Hi everyone. In this slide we're looking at a slide labeled as cat intestine, but I think once we look at the layering patterns we will quickly be able to adjust that label to be a little bit more specific. So let's start off in the middle. So this is the lumen. The lumen is on the inside, and so what we have is the first layer that we're going to be looking at here are some villi. And so that's part of the tunica mucosa. And so from here into the interior is the tunica mucosa. And as you can see, we have some villi. And then as we go deeper beyond this point, roughly here, we start to notice that the space between the epithelial cells here becomes a bit more narrow. And so we have deeper in are these crypts of lubricant. Now these are not terribly deep. They get much deeper in the large intestine, but they seem relatively deep in here. Okay, so these are the crypts of lubricant. Now beyond this, you can see a very different kind of staining in this region. This is the Tunica Submucosa. Now the submucosa here clearly has what looks like glandular tissue. So even at this magnification, you should be able to identify this as glands. And therefore we know only one region of the small intestine that has glands in the submucosa. These are Brunner's glands, these are submucosal glands, and so this is the duodenum of the small intestine. Now beyond the submucosa, we have a layer of muscle, or two layers of muscle. This is the tunica muscularis, and what we have is an inner circular layer of smooth muscle, and then an outer longitudinal layer of smooth muscle. Okay, so let's take a look around the outside. Notice that there is a free surface here. There doesn't seem to be a lot of connective tissue around the outside, just a free surface for the most part along the outside of this structure in general. And so what we have here is the tunica serosa on the outside. Okay. Now, in this region here, it looks like there's something else going on, and so you'll notice there's a bit of adipose tissue. We have some blood vessels coming in, and so we're actually seeing here is part of the mesentery coming in, bringing the vascularization into the area. So this is this part right here. That's the mesentery that's coming in, and again we can see a couple of blood vessels, 3 small arteries coming in. There's some veins in here as well. There's one vein that's pretty obvious right there. And again, a bit of connective tissue there and a bit of adipose tissue within this region. Okay, let's take a closer look at this at high magnification. So right now at 40x, let's move on to 100x. Okay. And so this magnification, I think things become a little bit more clear in terms of the submucosa is very clearly glandular. This region right here, what I'm pointing at, is one of these crypts of lubricant. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of these very long tubular sort of structures, whereas out here this is a villus. Okay, so the villus ends roughly around here, and so at this point the crypt of lubricant will begin, and so more of a shallow sort of tubular gland-like structure. Okay, now what you'll notice is that underneath the epithelium, this epithelium is a simple columnar epithelium with a brush border. There's going to be a lot of absorption or increase in surface area for absorption happening here. Underneath the epithelium, it's very cellular. You can see a lot of nuclei down here. And again, this is all because we're dealing with a lot of diffuse lymphatic tissue. Basically, it's a protective mechanism. The epithelium here is, like I said, simple columnar, which means that it's not very difficult to penetrate for pathogens. And so if anything does manage to get across this epithelium, there is your immune system right underneath that there to deal with whatever passes across. Now again, this is the mucosa. The submucosa stains very differently, obviously. And again, what we're seeing here is lots and lots of glands. And beyond that, we have an inner circular layer of smooth muscle. So you can see a bit of a longitudinal section through smooth muscle cells here. And then as we go beyond that, up here, we can see a different arrangement of cells. So we have an outer longitudinal layer of smooth muscle. Okay, and again, here's the mesentery coming in. And again, we have a few blood vessels here, some small arteries in this case. And there is a fairly wide open sort of collapsed vein. So again, it would be classified as a small vein. There's very little smooth muscle around it, but you can clearly see just how large this lumen is compared to the lumen of one of these arteries. Okay, so let's get back to the duodenum. Let's find us an interesting area here maybe and zoom in on it a little bit more. So let's go up to 400x. And so I wanted to show you one other thing here, which again, these are the crypts of lubricant. One of the things that you will notice in the crypts of lubricant is stuff like this. That right there, you can see there are what look like two very intensely stained nuclei. What's going on there is actually mitosis. Okay, you see that throughout. So you can see some of these very intensely stained sort of clusters showing up within these crypts of lubricant. Here's another one right there. Come on, let's get back to that one. It's pretty obvious. I think telophase right there. Okay, so you're going to be looking at a lot of these. The crypts of lubricant is where you find the stem cells that regenerate the epithelium that is being lost at the tips of the villi. The epithelium here, the epithelial cells, these enterocytes, have a fairly limited lifespan. They live for about a week or so before they're shed into the lumen. And so what happens is that they are replaced by the cells constantly dividing within these crypts of lubricant. And so one thing you will see a lot of in these crypts of lubricant is a lot of evidence of this mitosis going on. So again, you can see that here as well. There's a lot of these cells that kind of look a little out of place. And again, what we're looking at here is a lot of cell division going on. Again, these are the stem cells that are found within these crypts. Okay, and again, what we have down here below the crypts are the muscle cells of the musculus mucosa. And then beyond that, we have the glandular cells. And then beyond that, again, smooth muscle, inner circular layer, nice longitudinal section through smooth muscle, and then an outer circular layer. Outer longitudinal layer. Okay, and then beyond this, we have a mesothelium on the outside. So this right here would be a tunica submucosa. Okay, so let's move on to a different slide.